All right, for commodities market update now, we're going to be looking at some major commodities right here, and that's an interesting one. Now, we're going to be looking at the movement and price of coconuts. There we'll see the price of a dozen coconuts in Nigeria jumped by over 90% in the last year to 7,000 naira. And given that coconut is widely known for its uses in culinary, cosmetics, and even pharmaceutical industries. And let's talk to Fumi Adebowale now, manager FDC, to tell us why the price is rising so high. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, so good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So
I can mention the price of coconut surged by over 90%, and that is huge. And that is because what the country is producing currently, it is inadequate to meet growing demand. Currently, Nigeria is producing less than 300,000 metric tons of coconuts, and that is low compared to what the demand for this commodity is actually. And if you look at the factors that are actually contributing to this, one of those factors is the fact that farmers are using low-yield seedlings. So currently, especially small-scale farmers, they are using the Guinea tall seedling, which takes about, I think, 9 to 15 years for it to begin to fruit. And the yield on this seedling is not as high as the hybrid seedling that is used in the top producing country. So that is actually limiting production. Meanwhile, the demand for coconut has increased sharply in the last decade, and that's because coconut is widely used by a number of industries, particularly the pharmaceutical industry, food and beverages, cosmetics, and the likes. So with the increase in the price of coconut, we expect that the price of the byproducts or the derivatives will increase, and that will have significant implications for households and businesses. So for businesses, the ability to actually transfer the increase in price to consumers depends on how price sensitive the end users are, which are the consumers. So if they're able to pass it on to them, fine. But that will mean that if consumers should respond by reducing the quantity they demand from them, definitely businesses too will reduce their demand for coconut, and that will weigh on the performance of the industry that rely on this commodity.
Now, looking at production of coconuts, now we see Nigeria has the perfect climate for growing coconuts, but yet to import about 70%, mostly from Ghana and Ivory Coast, to meet local demand. What are the factors undermining the country's potential, and how will this shortfall in domestic supply, how will that be met? We've been clamoring to be self-sufficient in coconut production.
Coconut can be produced in virtually all states in Nigeria, but what we are seeing currently is that Lagos State is the highest producer of coconut. It accounts for about 70% of total production. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the factors that is limiting the potential in the production of coconut is the low-yield seedling that is being used by farmers. So most of these small-scale farmers cannot afford the hybrid seedling that is used for commercial production. And this is it is important that for us to maximize the potential and to increase production and maximize potential of this commodity, there has to be investment in the hybrid seedling, and that might mean that there isn't for support, from the government to be able to attain this height. If that happens, it is good one for the country in the sense that the production of coconut can be increased to a level whereby 100% of local demand will be met, and there is also surplus to be exported. If this happens, what that means is that, number one, the dollar that will be demanded to import coconuts will be reduced, and that is cost savings for the government. And if they also increase exports, it means there will be additional dollar inflow into the country. That would be a good one for the country, looking at the fact that the currency has been under pressure for some months now. So it's going to help in reducing the pressure on the currency. There will be increase in gross external reserves, and Nigeria's trade balance will definitely improve.
We need more dollar inflow, at this time. Let's look at other countries now. See, Indonesia, they produce about 17 million metric tons. Philippines, 14 million. India is also big there. They're currently the largest producers of coconuts globally, accounting for 70% of global exports. You see Sri Lanka and Vietnam also on that list. But in Africa, we just have Ghana with 507 million metric tons, about 507,000. So why do these countries have so much advantage, when it comes to, producing on a global scale?
you look at the countries that you mentioned now, one thing is common to them. They are mostly countries in the Asia-Pacific region, so they have favorable weather. But apart from this, the hybrid seedling, which is used for commercial production, is what the farmers are actually using, and that is having a positive impact on the output of coconut in these countries. But we're also seeing some countries in West Africa also using this using the hybrid seedling, and one of them is Ghana. Ghana is currently using that, and that is with the help of the government and some other authorities. I think in June 2020, about 400,000 seedlings were distributed to farmers, and that in a way helped to reduce the cost burden on farmers and also increase the country's production. Currently, Ghana is one of the 10 top producing coconuts, one of the top 10 countries producing coconut in the world, and compared to 2017 when it was ranked 14th largest producer in the world. So I think this is where Nigeria can learn. Nigeria can learn from this. There's a for intervention to be able to assist farmers to increase production. And when that happens, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a win-win situation whereby farmers will win. The country as a whole will also benefit in terms of increased dollar inflows and reduction in currency pressures.
All right, for me, I am definitely looking for that one commodity that I can say, okay, Nigeria produces enough of, and we're actually benefiting from. I'm looking for that commodity. Thank you so much, Fumi Adebowale, Manager, Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you.